Meenakshi Shedde. I'm a critic and a senior program advisor at the Toronto International Film Festival. I'm here in Toronto with Pawo Choyning Dorji, director of this fantastic film, The Monk and the Gun, that had a wonderful premiere here after and has a long run after. Tell us what the reception was at Toronto.
It was amazing. For me, I've always looked at Toronto with a lot of awe, and it's finally amazing to be here coming as a director. The audience was really supportive, especially the Himalayan community.
I saw a whole bunch of people from Bhutan. I had no idea.
Yes. So many Bhutanese came in their national costumes to represent our culture. It was very, very heartwarming, and also a lot of support from the Tibetan community as well.
Yeah.
So I'm very grateful.
So lovely. But tell us what was the starting point of the film, and tell us a little about the film itself.
Well, I had already started pre-production after I had finished Lunana.
Yeah.
And
sorry, I paused for a moment here to just say that this is Pawo's second feature after Lunana, A Yak in the Classroom, which had already got an Oscar nomination, which not very many films from India have got. So it's extraordinary that from a tiny country like Bhutan with a struggling economy, barely existent film industry, has such a magnificent achievement. And I will ask him in a bit about its very, very global resources that are supporting this film. And in fact, Anne Thompson of IndieWire has already flagged off The Monk and the Gun as among the front runners for the Oscars 2024. So big congratulations on that, and very good luck.
Thank you.
Yeah, tell us about how the journey started.
So, when we had just finished Lunana, and people were encouraging me to make a second film. So I was already in the midst of pre-production when, as you mentioned, the entire circus of the Oscars started for Lunana.
Circus is right, yeah.
And I had to kind of shelve the project and kind of concentrate on Lunana's Oscar campaign, which was very successful. We accomplished some amazing things which we thought we wouldn't be able to.
Tell us about it. I mean, even for an Indian, it is like an unthinkable thing that everyone chases, but you actually pulled it off.
Yeah, to be frank, when I submitted the film, I had not much of a hope, and a lot of distributors and agents were actually telling me that there's no point in submitting because poor countries that don't have the resource to campaign, they don't have the PR push, they don't get nominated. And they were like, just look at the number of films nominated. It's always the wealthy countries. It's the European countries. It's Japan,
US.
Korea. It's very, very difficult. But there was a part of me that I always thought, I'm confident with my film, and I feel like if they just take time to watch it, it might have a chance.
And
of course, we made history when we were shortlisted with absolutely no publicity, no distribution. And after that, everything kind of fell in place. We had an amazing campaign to push ourselves from...
Tell us the people who backed it. There was such wonderful support from Ang Lee.
Yes,
and
Ang Lee.
Tell us who the others were.
When we got shortlisted, people said, you have to have in-conversation series with different filmmakers, established Hollywood personnels. And I didn't know who to contact. I don't know anyone. I contacted Ang Lee, and he said, let me think about it. And I thought, okay, that's probably a no. But 2 weeks later, he said, okay, let's do this.
So lovely.
Tony Leung came and supported us. Jeremy Thomas, Bradford Young, who was DOP nominated for an Oscar for The Arrival.
Wow.
So I was really overwhelmed by the support that, came through. So.
Wonderful. Really lovely. But tell us a little more about what this, The Monk and the Gun, is about. And the starting point. You talked about how it was interrupted by the Oscar campaign.
So The Monk and the Gun is a story that I've wanted to share with the world for a long time. I come from Bhutan, and that is unlike any other country in the world. In the mid-1900s, we kind of went into this mode of self-isolation to preserve our culture, our sovereignty, our way of life, and adopted something called gross national happiness. But in the mid-2000s, something happened, and that's when our beloved fourth king decided, Bhutan needs to join the rest of the world, and he abdicated, and he introduced democracy. And I think, I'm pretty sure I'm right in saying this, but Bhutan is probably the only country where democracy was introduced without a war, without a revolution, without a revolt. People didn't really want it, but it came through on peaceful terms. We became the last country to join the internet and allow televisions. So it was a moment of great change and transition. And I wanted to tell a story about that time. Because, Meenakshi, Bhutan is a culture and a people that really values and celebrates the quality of innocence. It's very part of our culture. So how does a culture that venerates innocence, how does it change and transition into a modern world where innocence can sometimes be seen as ignorance,
Right.
So the movie is really a celebration of innocence.
Lovely. I like the many contradictions that it's talking about because he's literally giving them democracy on a platter. People, no, the people are saying we don't want it. We don't want. We don't want it. And he's saying no, you have. And actually, there's a campaign to educate people,
Yes.
like a mock
Yes,
elections,
yes.
so they have it.
Yes.
But what is the situation back home actually, as distinct from the film? Is it quite close to what you're showing?
Yes. As with Lunana, a yak in the classroom, what I always do is I get my inspiration from the actual real life stories. Yak in the classroom was, I first got the idea when a teacher told me that, I put a yak in the classroom because I didn't want to climb the mountain to get dung. I was like, wow, visually that would be so amazing.
Yeah.
And the monk and the gun, when Bhutan became a democracy, Bhutan did have a mock election, and the results of the mock election is exactly like how I put it in the movie.
Very interesting.
So it's very based on true events.
Wonderful. But how much ever Indian filmmakers complain, I think they cannot imagine what filmmaking in Bhutan is. You were working for Lunana as well as this one, I think, from very remote areas without power, hanging onto your solar batteries. Tell us a little about the day-to-day experience and the challenges of filmmaking there.
Lunana, a yak in the classroom. Sometimes when I think about it now, I wonder how it even came together. Because, we had, as you said, we had no electricity. We had solar batteries. We had one camera. We had maybe a 400-kilo yak in a tiny classroom. 5 kids who had, forget about never watched a film, never seen a light bulb in their lives as our main cast.
Oh my God.
Big challenges.
Yeah.
With the monk and the gun, things were slightly easier, but it's remote. For example, all our film equipment. This time we actually had equipment.
Okay.
So we had cameras, lights, and we brought it in from Delhi.
Okay.
And it took 1 week
Yeah.
for the equipment to arrive on our set from
Delhi.
Yes,
Oh
so
God.
1 week.
Wow.
And once it got there, there's no proper roads. The trucks are getting stuck in the mud. We have to push it here, push it there. A lot of challenge. But I think when you have these challenges and you're limited in how you can do things, it forces the filmmakers to be more creative.
Right.
So,
Right. Lovely. I think one of the many, it's a very layered film with a marvelous screenplay. And I think one of the many important points that it is making, which is also reflected in the title, is a character of an American,
Yes.
an antique gun dealer. And I found it marvelous for the metaphor that you're making on not only democracy, of course, that's what the film is about, but also the place, it's also operating at a philosophical level for me on the place of violence and non-violence in our lives, but making a point very in a roundabout manner, not hitting people on the head with it, and making us reflect. Can you tell us about that strand about non-violence?
Well, the thing with me is I'm a devout Buddhist. And whenever I make films, I think it's quite natural for my spiritual belief to sometimes come through. But I'm very careful about it because I don't want to come out very preachy about my beliefs. But as you were mentioning with the monk and the gun, I rely on a very, very important tool in Buddhism, and that is symbolism. Everything is symbolic. So, for example, in Buddhism, the motivation for an action counts more than an action itself, right?
How
interesting. With that and the power of symbolism, we use many different items. For example, all the characters. There are many, many characters, and each character symbolizes one aspect of Bhutan at that time. You have the guide who's trying to, the happy-go-lucky trying to get his quick buck. You have the lama and the monk symbolizing the culture, the spirituality. You have the election officer symbolizing this change and transition. You have the family caught in the middle, all that. But then also the gun. What does the gun symbolize? In the outside modern world, the gun can symbolize aggression, violence, suffering. But in the Buddhist world, if you have the right motivation, the gun can also symbolize wisdom, compassion, loving kindness. Also, you know about Bhutan and our phalluses as well. Even the phallus, what does it represent? It represents the journey to enlightenment and inhibition. So I really wanted
The phallus represents inhibition.
Yes. So actually, in Bhutan, the ultimate goal for every individual is enlightenment.
Yes.
So what is the biggest obstacle to enlightenment?
Wow.
Inhibition and concepts.
Wow.
So in the Buddhist tradition, Vajrayana Buddhist,
Yes.
it's like if you have water in your ear, how do you get the water out? You put more water in it.
Ah.
So if inhibition is your obstacle, then I will wave around a phallus until you realize that the phallus, the inhibition is non-existent.
Wow.
So
okay, that's
in
it
Bhutan,
Very
we have
interesting.
phalluses everywhere.
Right.
Used to, at least.
Yes.
We
yes.
used to have phalluses everywhere. Then we became a modern country, and suddenly that innocence,
The inhibitions came in.
the innocence disappeared, and then we said, "Oh, we feel embarrassed about
right.
this." So in this movie,
Very
I wanted to
interesting.
put it back there, reintroduce that.
Lovely. But you said something extraordinarily beautiful at the Q&A about storytelling and what they represent in
Yes.
Bhutan. Please tell us about that.
Well, Meenakshi, in Bhutan, there is no word for storytelling, and it is not because our Bhutanese culture is primitive or the Bhutanese language doesn't have the vocabulary richness for it. It's because storytelling is such an important part of our culture, of who we are as a nation. So in many dialects in Bhutan, when we say tell me a story, it is please untie a knot for me. So the telling of a story has that purpose. It is freeing, it is liberating, it is untying. And as a storyteller, that's what inspires me. I want to tell stories, to untie knots, to help people, to take them to higher state, and that is the Bhutanese way of cinema, you could say.
So beautiful. So is a lot of the storytelling largely also instructive, or there's also a lot of masti and mischief?
It gets musty and mischief now. So culture is always evolving, right?
Sure.
So, for example, there are a lot of folk tales in Bhutan, and one of the most vivid memories I have is me growing up with my grandfather in eastern Bhutan, and at that time we didn't even have gas stoves. So in the kitchen there would be this big earthen stove with this wood stuck in and mud walls, and then the electricity would always be going off.
The same at my grandmother's place.
Yeah, there would be a lantern and that smell of kerosene.
Yes.
It just brings back all the memories.
Yeah.
And then my grandfather telling me stories, folk tales, and there was this belief, like after every sentence he would say, I have to say, acknowledge it, because if I don't, then the ghosts will acknowledge the story instead.
So I have to be really paying attention.
Yes.
All right.
And then on the side, every day I would be marking my height on the mud wall to see how tall I was getting. So all these, these are the you could say the foundations upon which I became a storyteller.
Wonderful.
And from those folk tales now, there is musty and mischief coming in, because now there's a monk carrying a gun. I'm putting a yak in a classroom. So, building on that.
So nice. So nice. But I'm also just completely enchanted with the incredible, very high level support that this film and also Lunana got from all over the world.
Yes.
I mean, first of all, in your own, you've got, of course, Stephanie Lai, who is a Taiwanese producer, actress, and of course, Pawo's wife. And there's Films Boutique, who's doing sales. There's UTA doing sales. There's Cinetic doing press. He's got all the world's top guys at his feet. How did all these wonderful high-level collaborations come about?
Meenakshi...
and Shu Feng.
Yes, Shu Feng as well.
Producer.
Shu Feng, producer of Farewell My Concubine.
Yeah,
she's also on board.
Yeah.
And
Lisa
Henson of the Henson family. Muppets.
Muppets family. I adore
she's
those. EP. My gosh, all the big guns.
I've been very, very fortunate, but the journey hasn't been easy. When I made Lunana, a yak in the classroom, it was quite the opposite. It was just me and my wife, and we decided to make this film for a very, very small budget. We had no distributor, no sales agent, we had no publicity, we had no EPs, and we made this film, and then we sent it out to different festivals. And Meenakshi, when you are an artist, and we were just having this conversation, it's very vulnerable. You make something, you work so hard to make it, and you put it out there to be judged, to be criticized. And I had made Lunana, and I sent it out. And for the first 7 months, I was just collecting rejection letters.
Oh, yeah,
And
wow.
so many rejection letters. And I wondered, am I doing the right thing? Is this all worth it? Will people appreciate what I'm trying to do, the knot I'm trying to untie?
Right.
And you could say everything kind of fell in place when we were accepted by London Film Festival. And then through that, Films Boutique discovered us. Films Boutique is, one of the world's top sales agents. And they guided me through the process. And then after that, everything kind of fell in place. We ended up getting awards from different festivals. We went to Palm Springs, got 2 awards there. There were I remember 54 Academy nominees there. And we won 2 awards there, best of the fest, best audience choice.
Fabulous.
And then after that, when we were in the Oscar race, Cinetech, which is one of the best in what they do,
yes,
they came to me and they said, we watched your film and we love it, and we would like to help you. And I'm so grateful.
Wonderful.
So of course, after the Oscar journey, I went to Los Angeles. I met with different people. I met with UTA, and that really set the foundation for this next film, The Monk and the Gun. But Meenakshi, even with this, I'm very, very careful with how I go about it, because when I first proposed the idea, there were many suggestions, from the US side as well. They were like, oh, you have an American character, let's bring on this star, that star. But I want to go with what worked for me.
Sure.
And I thought that if an established star from America came, then it'd be like, oh, he has gone to make a movie in Bhutan.
Right.
It wouldn't be that this movie about change and transition and innocence of Bhutan has come through. So the headlines would be very different.
Correct.
In Toronto or Telluride, it would be all about how that person went.
Also, you might overwhelm the whole film and the story,
Exactly,
right?
exactly. So what I was telling them was, I also have to think about the overall budget, how much I'm paying my crew, my cast in Bhutan.
Sure.
And, if they are getting paid only a tiny fraction of what this actor is being paid, then there'd be a whole imbalance in the production.
Sure.
So I've always tried to keep it grounded
Yeah.
and as authentic as possible. As a filmmaker, that's something I always rely on. I want to
Sure.
keep my stories as authentic as possible. So.
Absolutely. I think I would have imagined this authenticity, but also the quality of innocence, which is so fast vanishing from everywhere.
Yes.
And would you imagine that is actually exactly what people are attracted to in your film, other than the fact that, of course, that it's a well-told story, it's well-crafted. But do you think that this quality of innocence, which everyone hangs onto in our hearts, but doesn't see so much in real life, is what is precious?
Definitely, I think so. Something that I think it's also because of my background. I may be Bhutanese, but I grew up all over the world. I grew up in North America. I was in the Middle East. I was in
Tell
Europe.
us what you were doing at any of these.
Oh, my father was a diplomat, so we were always moving. I was born in Darjeeling, in the middle of a tea garden. I did my schoolings in South India, in Tamil Nadu.
I have to check you out on your Tamil.
Oh, it's terrible. But then I grew up in
Wait,
Kuwait.
which school was this?
Kodaikanal.
Lovely, lovely.
It was very, very beautiful up there.
Do you have lovely memories of Kodai?
Oh, wonderful, wonderful.
Lots of friends and stuff.
And it's just, I can still, when I look back, I can still get the scent of eucalyptus.
Oh, that is lovely. Okay, you have to tell us one dialogue from Monk and the Gun in Tamil.
Oh, no.
Yes.
I don't think I can. My Tamil is non-existent. Okay. But, I lived in Kuwait.
Yeah.
I lived in Switzerland. I lived in the US, in Wisconsin.
Okay.
So all this, it actually helps me in the way I want to tell my stories. So, I can take someone who is in the world's most remote classroom with a yak in the classroom, a society that values yak dung over everything else.
Yeah.
The men are in skirts. And I can turn that story into something universal for the world to appreciate. And that is about the story of finding home and where you belong. And even with The Monk and the Gun, there are a lot of, themes and elements which people will think very, very, it's very alien to them. But then I can get to the root, which is innocence. And innocence, I think, is an inborn quality that all of us have, irrespective of nation, culture, religion, creed. We have that. But of course, as we get more educated, we kind of get, disconnected from that. So I think the universal theme of innocence does come through very well in this film.
Absolutely. Tell us about your cast and crew, and also tell us how you met Stephanie. We want to know. We want to know.
Stephanie and I met in Delhi.
Oh, okay.
And the first time we met was in Khan Market.
That's lovely. At a bookstore?
Yeah.
What happened?
Actually, right in front of Barisans.
Oh, that is a sacred place for us, so many of us.
But
How did that happen?
We are both practicing Buddhists, and
Yeah.
we are both students of Khyentse Norbu, who is not only a very, very respected Buddhist master, but also an incredible filmmaker. And he happens to be my Guruji,
Yeah.
not just spiritually, but also in the filmmaking world.
Yes.
So, everything I do, I dedicate to him, and he's been the guiding light for me with every step, every film, everything I do.
Lovely.
Even with The Monk and the Gun, he's guided me through all, from pre-production all the way to editing.
Wonderful.
And when you have a guru like that,
That's
everything
lovely.
becomes easier.
Yeah.
But going back to casting and crew.
No, we want to continue the Stephanie story. How did that happen? Yeah.
Well, because we were both students of Khyentse Norbu, we met, and it was just, I think, meant to be.
So lovely.
We met in India. We got married in India.
Okay.
We raised.
Also in Delhi?
No, we got married in Himachal Pradesh.
Lovely. Where?
In Bir.
Oh, lovely,
So,
lovely. Yeah.
And we started to raise our kids in India, in Himachal Pradesh.
Okay.
But then as they were getting older, for education purposes, we had to move out. We went back to Taiwan. But India still holds a very, very special place in all our hearts.
So you're zipping back and forth all the time?
Yes.
Oh, wow. Hectic life in any case.
Very hectic.
Wow. But tell us a little more, because you said you hadn't been to film school. And tell us about your early grounding with Khyentse Norbu and what you learned about filmmaking.
My first break in filmmaking came when Khyentse Norbu made his film Vara, A Blessing.
Yes.
And it was about Bharatanatyam dance. And we shot it in Sri Lanka. And
wasn't that the one on a Sunil Gangopadhyay story?
Yes,
Was that
yes,
the one,
yes,
right?
yes, that's
I mean,
the one.
I love this, like Bengali short
Yes,
story with
yes.
Shahana Goswami in
Yes.
Sri Lanka, Bhutanese filmmaker. I
Yeah.
love the South Asian thing.
So,
Yeah, please tell me more.
Khyentse Norbu, at that time I was an aspiring photographer, and he said, "Hey, I'm making this film in South India. Do you want to come on board?" And I was like, "Well, I've never been on a film set." And he was like, "Yeah, just come. You be the stills photographer, and you be my assistant." And that was film school for me.
Lovely.
Because I was involved with him in the creative process of writing the script, casting, auditions, rehearsals, production design. And production design for the film was done by Aradhana Seth. And
wonderful.
It was, a real master. And then, going to Sri Lanka, meeting the crew, and just being beside the director the whole time.
Lovely.
It was such an amazing opportunity. And I remember, though, it was very, very stressful. Because, have you been to Sri Lanka?
Yes.
It's like all the snakes in the world go to Sri Lanka for vacation. There are pythons, there are vipers.
When you were shooting?
Yes.
Good Lord, like in the
And-
countryside
yes,
open.
yes,
Oh
yes.
my
So
God.
it was very, very stressful.
Oh.
And it rained so much. And it was very exhausting. And
Gosh.
at the end, Khyentse Norbu asked me, he was like, "Do you want to become a filmmaker?" And I said, "No, this is the most stressful thing I've ever done. I never want to be on another film set." But, lo and behold, a few years later, I ended up again on his film set, this time Hema Hema,
Yeah.
which actually came here to Toronto on the
Right.
platform.
I remember.
And on that film,
So
again,
Hema, sing me a story.
Sing Me a Song While I Wait.
Sorry, yeah.
So that film, again, I was, I came on board as a producer.
As producer,
Yes.
wow, what an upgrade!
Yes.
Very nice in your very second film.
From
Fantastic.
director's assistant to producer.
But that is so generous and instinctive, right? That he would give you such an important role.
Yes,
That's beautiful.
and then again with that, I was thrust into the scene. I had to do everything, and learning again, filmmaking, but from a different perspective, right?
Yeah.
And again, being involved from the beginning right till the end. And Khyentse Norbu, because he is a Buddhist master and he's very busy, he can't travel with the film. So I actually came to Toronto with Hema. Yes.
And Khyentse wasn't there?
No, he came for a part of it, but
Okay.
most of the festivals he didn't
Was he?
go.
Okay.
So then, doing that gave me an opportunity to, to sell the film, to meet people, to talk about it. And that was another aspect of filmmaking that I learned then.
Sure.
And I think then those two experiences provided the right stepping stone for me to jump into Lunana, a yak in the classroom. So.
Fantastic. But please tell us also about the casting, about Tandin Wangchuk, but also a lot of the lovely non-actors. And
In Bhutan, as you were mentioning earlier, we don't really have an established proper film industry. It's starting, but we still have a long way to go.
how many films do you make in a year, maybe?
Commercial films, there's quite a bit. The
general?
local industry.
In general? Totally?
Totally, I'm not sure. But then the local industry, there's a lot. There's a lot happening.
Okay.
But those films don't really come out of Bhutan.
Right,
It's for the
right,
local
local
audience.
market, yeah.
But for films like ours,
Yeah.
I think one every 2 to 3 years.
Okay.
So it's difficult. It's challenging.
Sure.
But then when you have an industry like that, there's not many actors you can cast around.
Right.
I mean, when I put out auditions for Lunana, I think we had like 15 people.
Holy.
Yes. But because of Lunana's success, when we sent out audition calls for The Monk and the Gun, we had around 250.
Okay,
So
all right.
we have grown.
Yeah.
But still, most of these actors, are non-professional actors who who have not gone to film or acting school.
Right.
So, what I do is usually I cast very early.
Mm-hmm.
And then I cast very carefully, and then I study these actors.
Mm-hmm.
And then I try to implement their characteristics into the script.
Lovely.
So, for example, Pemzam in Lunana.
Yeah.
She's playing
That
herself.
little tiny girl who's a
Yes,
protagonist.
she's playing herself.
Lovely.
It's almost like a docu-feature because I learned her life story. I put everything in the script, and I said, okay, you're just being yourself now.
Wonderful.
So I
wonderful.
tried that even with The Monk and the Gun. For example, the Lama who wants the guns.
Yeah.
He is the Lama of the village, the only Lama of the village. And
He's an actual Lama.
Yeah,
Wow.
and when I met him, he was about to leave his home to meditate in a cave.
Oh.
And I said, oh, please stay for this film, help me with this. And then he was very reluctant. He was, I don't know how to do this. I said, don't worry.
Yeah.
I'll guide you through the process. You just have to be yourself. You are a Lama.
So lovely.
And of course, Tandin Wangchuk, who's also known as Misty Terrace.
He's a fantastic musician. Tell us a
Yes,
little about his casting.
He's a very, very popular pop star in Bhutan and the Himalayan region. But
he's also traveled the world with his music.
Yes, with his music.
Yeah.
And, he came up for the auditions and, he worked really hard, And I think when you have non-professional actors, there's some sort of authenticity they bring. And then that's where me and Stephanie, my wife, who's also an actress, she works with them to, guide them through the whole performance.
Yeah.
So we find a perfect balance between authenticity and performance.
Lovely.
And then I think the performance come out very well then.
Very wonderful. What would you have said is the most challenging thing to film in this movie?
The Monk and the Gun.
Mm-hmm.
The scenes where usually there are tons of
crowd
extras.
scenes.
Yes,
Yeah.
those are very difficult.
Yeah.
Because again, this film was shot in a very remote place.
Yeah.
And you have to kind of rely on the locals there.
Sure.
So, first of all, they're reluctant to come.
Yeah.
You have to really request and drag them on. And once they come on set, just trying to control them, trying to give them directions, and working with the crew also that also are mostly all Bhutanese.
Mm-hmm.
So they have the interests. They are very, very passionate about this, but then they don't have much experience also in dealing with these things. Even myself. I mean, this is my second film, right? So many times we are also all learning on the process as we go.
Yeah.
So those were challenging, but I'm happy it came through well.
Lovely. I think you were mentioning in an interview about how people would keep running off to do other jobs, and you had somebody to just keep them in
Yes.
What kind of other stuff did they go
because
to do?
all the people there, they are local farmers, they are cow herders, they're farmers. They have to tend to the field. If they are away from their work, their crops are getting destroyed by the rain or being eaten by the wild boar. Okay. So they are also on a very tight schedule. Yeah. And then we are like trying to drag them and trying to keep them on set, but they want to go somewhere else. So yeah, those were challenges.
Very interesting, very interesting. But I'm just delighted with this worldwide affection and really invested in your journey. So many people all over the world want you to succeed, and I think that is the greatest compliment to your work and who you are.
I'm very, very grateful for all the support I've been receiving, and I was just telling you as well, when I go for festivals, when I go for awards, it's very sweet because like even here in TIFF, I go and then there's, here's the South Korean booth, here's the French booth, here's the Scandinavian party.
Yeah.
And wherever I go, I'm always the only Bhutanese filmmaker. So there's no booth or party or reception for me,
Yeah.
But I'm very touched because wherever I go, India is always there, hey, let's include Pawo.
So lovely.
When I went for the Oscars, I remember Priyanka Chopra, invited me for her party to celebrate the nominees.
That is lovely.
And I was touched up with that.
But you also got an Oscar nomination. It's very generous of her, of course, but that's wonderful.
And also here, like meeting you, meeting film companion, it's very, very sweet.
Lovely. Tell us about its forward journey after, but Telluride, you were telling us about times it was hard for you to watch with the audience. Tell us why that was so.
Well, the thing is...
you said it's a night screening.
It was a night screening.
Like open air.
So, I mean, Telluride as it is, I never expected to get into Telluride. Because it's like, I think Telluride is one of the most intimate, selective film festivals in the world.
Yeah.
And even if you look online, you don't see many images and videos.
Yeah.
And I always wondered I wonder how it is over there, in that little mountain village with only like 30.
Was it a little bit like home?
Oh, very much.
It was.
Very much. I felt like I was in Bhutan.
So sweet.
I mean, Toronto takes pride in saying, we get an audience of 450,000 every year. And then Telluride, they sell like a few thousand tickets and it's sold out in the first few seconds. And it's I always wondered, I wonder how Telluride is. But for them to reach out and be like, yes, we want you to be there, I was over the moon.
Wonderful.
I was so excited to go. And when the film had its world premiere, it was in the Ellis Park, which is an open air theater. And I remember a lot of other filmmakers where I met before their world premiere, they were all getting very nervous. But me, I don't get nervous, and I say because it's locked, there's nothing else you can do, right?
That's true.
Like I can't be like, hey, hold on, I'm going to pull it out from the projection booth and I'm going to edit it.
Yeah.
I can't do that.
It's on its way.
It's set now. There's nothing I can do. But that being said, especially with this film, with with Lunana, I knew what I wanted. I knew what I was trying to give the audience, and I knew what the audience how they will react to it. Yeah, it's touching. It's a very simple story. It's emotional. A few tears here and there. Okay, fine. That's normal. But with The Monk and the Gun, it's I wanted to evolve as a storyteller. I wanted to challenge myself. So Lunana, one character, the whole film. Okay, let's put in 8 characters. Let's put in 4 storylines. Let's put a element of drama. Let's put an element of comedy. Let's put this symbolism of these different items. Let's put a little dose of spirituality, but also a little bit of politics. So a lot is happening.
Sure.
So when the film was screening, I wasn't nervous, but then I felt very vulnerable to certain scenes. How would the audience react to that? So when the film premiered, it was screening, and I was there sitting at the back. But every time a certain climatic scene came, I had to quickly walk away and watch from a distance and be like, oh, okay, now I'll come back.
Oh my goodness! Oh my goodness!
But I mean, critics like Anne Thompson, Pete Hammond. Pete Hammond, the head of Deadline, he really loved it, and he said this is better than Lunana. And for me, I feel very honored. I feel like, wow, if these professional critics, very very influential, respected people, think like this of this film, then I'm maybe it is.
It is.
It
Also,
is
it was
worthy
lovely.
of way to Telluride.
Totally. But also Anne Thompson said, she clearly marked it in a front runners for the Oscars for 2024, and that is so fabulous.
But I try not to have any expectations. I know that when you have expectations, it always leads to disappointment, and I always say, with all phenomena in life, it's like a rainbow. You have rain, you have sunlight. It's there manifesting, and it's beautiful, but it's fleeting. So Lunana was a rainbow. This is a rainbow,
So
and I will
sweet.
enjoy this rainbow as it lasts. But I have no expectations. I'm grateful. Anne has, Anne and Pete and all the other film critics have, expectations like this. But it's very early. It's
Sure.
only September.
And has to be sent by Bhutan as
It
well.
has been sent.
It has been.
It
That's
has been
officially
sent.
happened.
And
Okay.
when Lunana was sent, we were the only submission.
Okay.
But I'm happy to say that this
There were
year
more?
we had to compete.
Nice, nice.
There were 4 films, and we had to compete.
Okay.
And you can see the Bhutanese film industry evolving, growing.
So nice.
So
That is
that's
very nice.
promising.
Tell us a little bit about the film's onward journey from here. It's already at a bunch of festivals.
Yes,
Tell us.
it is from here going to Woodstock Film Festival in New York. Unfortunately, I can't go with it because I have some visa complications. From Woodstock, it goes to Vancouver Film Festival, and I'm very appreciative because Vancouver was one of those festivals that gave Lunana a chance. And it was very, very well received, because as I was saying, Lunana had all these, a rough start. And then when it went to Vancouver, people were lining up on the street to watch the film. There was a real buzz about it. And I'm very, very appreciative. I'm someone who appreciates that. So I was very excited I'm very excited to go back to Vancouver to present my new film. After Vancouver, it goes to Busan Film Festival.
Fantastic.
And after that, it goes to Europe. But, the festival hasn't announced the selection
That's
yet.
fine. That's
So,
fine.
but yeah, there's European premiere coming up and Indian premiere coming up. And then the
Wonderful.
film also travels to Bhutan.
Lovely.
So, very, very excited.
Is there a chance that it will be shown theatrically, or are there? Sorry, I don't know enough. Can you tell us about the industry and whether there are theaters where people can go and see
In Bhutan?
regular? Yeah.
Yes, they
There-
have theaters. We have theaters. But then, of course, our theaters are very basic.
Yeah.
It's not like theaters in India or even here in
Sure,
Canada that,
sure.
has TCP projections.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
just a regular projection and you plug your laptop into it and
so
then...
it's a digital thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
So it's not the same, but it works in
You
Bhutan.
you want nothing more than to connect with your
Yes,
local
yes,
audience,
yes,
of course.
yes,
That's
yes,
precious.
yes.
But I also would like to congratulate you. You have to tell me the correct name. Your king very recently gave you a very beautiful honor. I have to get the name correctly because it's very poetic and evocative of the thunder dragon.
It's called the Druk Thukse, and it means the hot sun of the thunder dragon.
Beautiful.
So-
Please explain a little more about the symbolism
It-
because it's beautiful
It
and
is
poetic.
it is an honor bestowed by the king on individuals who have contributed to the nation state.
Wonderful.
And I grew up always watching in the news, hearing of how our great leaders, our great artists, get this award. It's regarded as one of the highest civilian awards. And every time I watched on the news, it used to be always someone who, contributed his whole life, and his old white hair, walking stick, and the king calls him and gives him this great recognition. But for me to get it at my age, I was very, very overwhelmed. But
how old are you now?
I turned 40.
Wonderful,
But
wonderful.
Quite old, but I don't have white hair and I don't have a walking stick. But then the king,
So wonderful.
but the king did tell me that you are the youngest Bhutanese to ever get it, and
So
that
lovely.
means so much to me. But I know that this recognition is not an individual recognition, but it's a recognition from the king to the untires of knots of Bhutan.
Beautiful.
It is
beautiful.
to the youth of Bhutan
Yeah.
to say that he has confidence in us, in what we do, and we have an important responsibility in pushing Bhutan forward in the new age.
So beautiful. I wish you every success. May you untie many more knots. And
Thank you,
thank you
Meenakshi.
so much. Thank you so much, Pawo.